So hello everyone and welcome to Emmanuel's Fireside Chat. My name is Michaela Schaff and I'm the creative director and also the host for today's episode on leadership and entrepreneurial pursuits. This session will be about an hour long, with the first 30 minutes being sort of a freestyle where me and Emmanuel just go back and forth and talk about entrepreneurship, and the last 30 minutes will be open for Q&A. A little background on Emmanuel: he was born in Cameroon, where he studied environmental science and later immigrated to the US in search of new opportunities, graduating with an MBA from Concordia University, Chicago, with a specialization in digital marketing. He now is paying it forward as the Vice President of Marketing and Growth for Upkey, a digital student success model focused on leveling the playing field for minority students. So Emmanuel, thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Wow, that intro was so amazing. Like that, you made me look so cool. Love it.
I just looked at your LinkedIn.
Love
it's all
it.
there.
Thank you.
Great.
Nice, awesome. Thank you for the intro. Thank you for being here with me. And thank you for the amazing things that you do for the Fireside Chat. And you're the host today, so looking forward to an amazing hour with you.
Great, I'm looking forward to it as well. So I'm going to jump in right away. And the first question, I want to keep it just kind of broad and talk about what is your personal definition of entrepreneurship and what does an entrepreneur to you look like?
Yeah, thinking about all the sessions that I've hosted this week with entrepreneurs and that I'm going to be hosting this week, and like hearing their own takes on entrepreneurship. But I'm literally going to give you Emmanuel's take on it. It may not be the popular definition of entrepreneurship, but it's just what I truly believe. But I want to start with who an entrepreneur is. To me, when I think about an entrepreneur, I think about a problem solver, right? I think about someone who sees opportunities, in uncertainties. I think about someone who sees an opportunity when there is a problem and figures out solution to that problem, but not only figures out the solution, but acts on his or her ideas to execute it to the point where it gets to a consumer so that person can benefit from that idea. So that's who I think of when I see an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship to me defines that process, right? It's a process for me, and it's something that doesn't have, it's not a one-stop shop to say if I do this and I'm an entrepreneur. It's what are the set of things that you do and what are the outcomes of the things that you've done, right? So to me, it's about, looking at the landscape and looking at the world, looking at problems in your communities. It could be at your dorm or on campus. What are some of the things that you like to see different, and what are you currently doing to solve those problems? Are you trying to do things at a micro scale? That means it's a small problem and you're trying to figure out some solutions to solve that small problem within your community. And to me, the whole process is what I consider as entrepreneurship.
Great. And I think a lot of people kind of get a little bit hung up on the word entrepreneurship. I think it kind of sounds a little intimidating to be someone who, solves these major problems and starts a business like that. But how do you think that it can be kind of accessible to someone who's like an artist? How can they use tricks like problem solving to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, I'm gonna call you MS for the sake of the conversation. Um, I truly believe that everyone has entrepreneurial tendencies, right? Everyone can do something entrepreneurial. Not everyone would necessarily be able to succeed as a full-time entrepreneur, but I believe that everyone can, at different scales, on different levels, and on different layers, create opportunities. And the key word here is create solutions to existing problems, right? The example you just give an artist, right? If you're an artist and you go to school, you're in college, you are very good. Let's say you draw with, let's say, what do you draw, Michaela?
Yeah, like charcoal or
Charcoal or like whatever it is, right? And you do that for fun. Maybe that's not all you want to do in life. Maybe just do that in your spare time. Maybe you're good at it, and you do that and you realize that your friends start saying, oh, I love it. and can I have one of it? And you start giving free paintings out, but you know you need funds to buy the inks, you need funds to buy the canvas and everything else. And you start thinking, I can't keep doing these things for free. As that student, you start selling out those paintings to your friend, to your friends, your family. That's entrepreneurship right there, right? Because it's a problem of, you know, people love painting, you know, people love art, and you're solving that pain point for them because they need art. Maybe their art satisfies something for that in their lives, right? And you give it to them because they love interacting with your art. To me, just that by itself alone is entrepreneurship. But you can take it a step further and say, okay, now I know 10 people love my art. What else can I do to tell people, tell the world about what I do, right? You can look at social media. You can think about, all right, now I need to create an Instagram page. I need to create a Facebook page, not a Facebook page about Emmanuel because I already have that. All right. It could be a combination of, I want to create a Facebook page about my art, or I want to tell my audience what I do and maybe give some testimonials about what people think about my art. And just by doing that, you're expanding the reach of the people that know about you that could potentially be a customer. And when you look at it on different levels, depend regardless of the scale, it's all about figuring out how can you reach an audience that will potentially be a customer. So no matter how you want to look at it, I think everyone has that potential, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can have a full-time job doing it. And by the way, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's a great thing to say. I honestly asked that because I am, considered in an artistic field, and we've been learning a lot about entrepreneurship recently. And I always wonder how I can fit myself into certain ideas that we're looking at. And it really, by your description, seems like something that anyone can approach because anyone can really have that problem solving skill just implemented in a different way based on what they're interested in and if they're willing to pursue it to that total way. So I talked about my interests, but I want to talk about you. What was your entrepreneurial journey like?
Oh boy. So where am I going to start with this question? So I'm going to trace this back like a long, long time ago. And to be honest with you, and sometimes you do certain things and you don't really know what it means because when you're young, you just act in the like spur of the moment. You just do stuff. Maybe you're trying to be recalcitrant, trying to be stubborn. But one thing I've always known about myself is I like being independent, right? I never like getting to what to do. I did not like fitting within the status quo. And when I was growing up, my mom used to work at the bank, and it's a pretty big bank, and she was pretty successful in her career, right? So while growing up, we used to have farms back in Africa. We used to have a lot of like farms. So you plant your seeds, you plant your crops, and you harvest them. But we always used to do that to eat the fruits at home, right? We always used to do that to come back with the produce at home to eat. And there was a time when I think I was in high school or something, like I think much earlier than that. I would say middle school ish. I needed money, and my mom never gave me money to do what I wanted to. But I didn't ever wanted to wait on her to get money on her terms. So what I did was my friends and we did a bunch of things, and I get punished for that, which is something that I would not encourage any parent to do because I think you're actually breaking curiosity. But I don't think my mom, she did that intentionally. Was we went to the farm, we harvested bananas, right? They were unripe, so we're gonna harvest a bunch of bananas, a bunch of banana, and then we're going to keep it in an environment so that it can become ripe. And we're going to go to the market and we're going to go sell these things. We're just going to have, I'll go with like a little stool with a little tray, a little pan. I chop the bananas in different, in like, let's say in 4 or 5 fingers. And then I just keep them, wash them, polish them, make them look super nice and clean, and compete with the other traders that do that for a living. And my whole goal for doing that was because I needed money. My mom didn't want to give me money to do what I wanted to do. Right. So I had to figure out a way to solve my problem. So I'll go to the market. I had to know, okay, how am I going to compete with this person? They do this for a living. They have so much. So what am I going to do? So what we do is now we're going to take the tray and we're going to put it on our heads and start walking around because this person is only going to be seated. But I'm going to walk around and see who would like to buy the bananas. I'm like, okay, now there are a lot of people doing this. They work around. what we're going to do next is, so this is all problem solving. I'm seeing competitors in the market. I didn't know that's what I was doing, right? Well, we went ahead and said, okay, now there are certain stores, and I knew some of those people. So what I did was I go into those stores, and I'm just going to sit there. People come into those stores to buy, and sometimes they come in and they sit for a minute to rest up. So by resting, they're hungry. It's hot outside. It's 90 degrees, right? And something is you have a nice cold banana here, and sometimes the stores they used to allow us keep it in the fridges so that person can buy directly. So I always figured out a way to make money and get myself to the point where I don't have to go back home with leftover fruits that I didn't sell. So to me, I can stem it back to that point in time. That's where when I take a look, I'm like, huh, that was real entrepreneurship right there. I was young and I was figuring out I needed money. My mom was not gonna give me, but I found a way to solve that problem.
That's great. I think it's really interesting how it kind of was an innate trait in you. It wasn't really something that you had to learn. It was something you kind of observed others doing, and you just realized there was almost like a pain point within yourself that you needed to solve. So that was kind of what you focused on. So I
Yeah,
want to talk.
I don't want to cut you short, but
No,
come to take a look, think of it, right? And sometimes the problem that you're trying to solve, and when I take a look back at my life and the things that I did, sometimes it's out of desperation. Like there is no other way but that way, right? I needed money. I wanted to go out with my friends. I wanted to buy sneakers. Maybe that was a frivolous reasons back then, which is okay for a teenager, and my mom is not going to give me the money. So in order for me to go out with my friends or to go to the restaurant with my friends and get what I wanted, the only way for me to do that was for me to go figure out a way to get the money. So sometimes it's out of like necessity. There's the only way forward is to be creative and to solve that problem. And it could take different shape and form. So it's also good to look at it from that lens. You don't have to be the next Facebook to think that you're an entrepreneur. The world doesn't need to know you and know your service for you to consider yourself an entrepreneur.
that's great. I love that. I think that that's very inspiring. I think that last sentence was pretty golden, to be honest. I think you should put it in your LinkedIn bio. But I do want to move forward and just go from that beginning point, but move onward to your journey. So, what really kind of clicks in you, whether you know or once you know that an idea is good or it's creative and it's going to be a solution?
So I have not been in the other side. There are two folds, right? The first one is you're an entrepreneur, you have the problem, but you don't necessarily have the funds. And then the other side of the equation is you need people to invest in your dreams, invest in your ideas, right? So you can actually make it come to reality. You can bring it to fruition. So I'm going to start with the lens of an entrepreneur. I'm going to start with that lens. And most often that lens doesn't take into account the risk associated with it and factor it into the decision making process as much, I would say. And for me, when I look at businesses, I have a lot of friends that have started their own companies, right? And I have a lot of friends that work for very good startups that are actually disrupting the iron industries in different ways. One thing I found that's common across the board with the folks that are doing it very well is that they are solving a, they are solving a problem that people have had for a long time, and people can't live without that solution. And they are solving, not just creating a solution for that product, or they're not just creating a solution for that problem, but they're also making it very easy for that solution to be accessible. But when it comes to the ideation, there are a couple of things that you could take a look at. You can look at, is there a real problem? And as Carter was talking about today, which I 100% agree with him, is what is the total addressable market? So if you want to go invest in this problem, if you want to go invest in a solution for this problem, who are you trying to help? Where are they? And can your solution, are they able to access your solution? So an example is going to be in Africa, if you want to go to Cameroon, right? You want to talk about, I want to solve, people would prefer in Cameroon to go use Apple Pay and go to the grocery store and just swipe and get away. It's easy, it's nice, it's beautiful. There is a pain point. But when you look at the market, the addressable market, the other things that factor, is that solution accessible to them? And what I mean by that is, if you bring in mobile digital technology in Cameroon, the other things that need to complement this solution, is it available in the marketplace? Right? So how much work do I need to do to make sure this person can use my service? And are those barriers very, 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 like, are they a hindrance to me getting into the market? So those are some of the things that I look at. And I think it's Shaquille O'Neal, he said one time that he invests in a company or an idea that is trying to make people's life better. And I 100% agree with that. If I'm trying to make someone's life better, then I know I'm solving a critical problem. And people are going to be willing to pay money to make their lives better. So whatever you're trying to do, and regardless of the skill, and let's forget about entrepreneurship and think about 10xing your money or trying to become the next billionaire in the market, right? Like, that's not a lot of people get that status. What problem are you trying to solve in your communities? Is there a real problem, and is your solution going to really solve the problem? Is it going to make the lives of the people better? I think when you define that and when it's clear, and then you realize that that is actually something that's viable, I think that's a good idea. I'm not going to go into the financial to think about it being profitable or not yet, but I think fundamentally that is something that is interesting whenever I look at an entrepreneurial idea.
Very interesting. I want to expand on that Shaquille O'Neal quote a little bit and get maybe slightly philosophical, maybe even social. I want to know how entrepreneurs can stay socially conscious throughout building their business and stay grounded to the public.
That's a loaded question. Oof. So I mean, we'll need to break this down a little bit, and I want you to help me with that a little bit, okay? So let's see. Let's take a look at Take a look at I don't know if you are going towards the big data companies and are you going towards big data companies and what they are doing by using people's data, and you're talking about the ethical components to it, or should we use another angle to address this problem?
That would be appropriate, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at Facebook. Young kid, back in the days, in his dorm room, I want to connect people, and now he has a global behemoth of a company called Facebook that has how many billion people using his services. So data privacy is a huge deal, right? And when you are an entrepreneur and you are trying to solve problems, and especially when it's something it's very scalable, and you start attracting a lot of users to your platform, or you start helping a lot of people regardless of what that problem is, 99% of the times, the process of helping that individual, you're going to collect sensitive information about them, right? Especially in this day and age, there's no way you're going to be a tech company without collecting information, without collecting data, especially when you're B2C, right? Now, there's a fine line between what's illegal and what's unethical. And I think that's all boils down to the value that a person holds. But there is a point when you cross that threshold, it's not just about your value that's going to have the overall say, It's about the objective of stakeholders. That's where things become very uncontrollable. And when you start involving stakeholders, the sole purpose of a stakeholder when they invest money is for profit. So everybody, regardless of the scale that you are serving your community, you need to understand the impact that your actions has on the people that you serve. You know, the fact that you're doing something that is not illegal, the fact that you have a 200-page privacy policy document that someone can never read and that you can defend yourself in the courts, that doesn't mean that you should misuse someone's information or use that person's information in a way that you would not like your own information to be used. So depending on how you take a look at this problem, which is something that is worth talking about, you know, I think that as we become more digital, as we continue to live in a digital environment, as we continue to share our information and share our digital footprint, we need to be careful with the type of information that we share as individuals. But more importantly, too, companies need to have an ethical responsibility to ensure that the fact that I trust you with my information and I trust that you're going to help me with a problem, you shouldn't, behind the scene, take advantage of that service by using the information that I provide to you for reasons unknown to me. It's a tough question, and you can look at it on so many lenses. Another example would be, what is Nike's responsibility to the communities that Nike serves? If Nike's consumer base is, you know, and I spoke about this in the last Fireside chat, if Nike's consumer base is African-American communities that live in inner cities, they buy the products whenever Nike releases any new product, and they use influencers from those communities, what is Nike's ethical responsibility to invest in back in those communities? And what are they currently doing to ensure that those people can get some of the money back by the services that, or by the initiative that Nike is going to provide for those communities? So I think it could be looked at on many different lenses, but it's a very relevant question. And it's something that I think we should talk about. But more importantly, I think the government and the what's the word for them? Agencies. I'll just use the word agencies that are there to protect consumer information, like the FDIC, at FDCI for the banking industry. Is that correct? Or, you know, all of like the policymakers, the lobbyists, to ensure that we can live in a society where it's not left, our data is not left, it's not at the mercy of the companies that hold them, but also there are policies and consequences that these companies are going to be held accountable to when they do breach some of this information, but also that people should be listened to, right? And sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes, like, I'm too small, I'm Emmanuel, and if I go try to put something out on the internet or Twitter or whatever, who's going to listen to me? I'm just like a drop in the ocean. So, tough question.
Yeah, it is really difficult. I know that in like the scientific fields, we have ethical review boards, which kind of serve a similar purpose of just making sure that the people that are involved are treated in a fair way with their informed consent. So that's kind of always a thing to think about when applying over to a business model as well.
But come to think about this, right? Most of these review boards, even our government, is owned by large corporations, because it's all about lobbying, it's all about relationships, it's all about, and there's a lot of corporate corruption, but also intergovernmental corruption. And that's why lobbies exist. And the fact that there's a review board, and I wouldn't say this is very specific to the health industry, but across the board, the fact that there's a review board doesn't necessarily mean that they are in it for the consumers. Not necessarily. So I'll just suggest that, and that's why it's important to, we are going to be going to the vote. I don't want to go political right now, but if we are going to put people in office, we want to make sure like those people understand they have the same values that we share, and they're going to represent us, and they understand some of those consequences. and you don't want to go put you don't want to go to Congress and you think about the you can't go to Congress and you're trying to go to the what committee am I trying to reference here? The security committee, right? And nobody there has worked in the military. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand foreign policy. You're gonna find people there that have the skills to know how to understand the problems when they do arise and how to create solutions or at least create policies that will address those problems. So the same thing with science and with data. If you want to go to the data committee, if there's one in Congress, you want to make sure the people that we vote to represent us understand what it means. They shouldn't just be blinded to that. You don't want someone to represent you and they go to Congress and they ask, and someone's going to say, I have an Android that's an Android, and they're talking to an Apple CEO saying like, hey, I have an Android. Are you tracking me? No, you're talking to a freaking Apple CEO, right? It doesn't make any sense. But that's our responsibility too when it comes to voting these people in power.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you for your insight on that. So moving on, I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll move over to the Q&A portion. So I wanted to know about what you look for in teams and what makes them click.
What do I look for in teams? So just to preface this, I I am constantly still trying to evolve my lens in terms of how I look at entrepreneurship, in terms of how I look at my lifestyle as an aspiring, you know, serial entrepreneur, right? The lens that I have right now is going to be different from the lens that I have in 5 years and 10 years, because of course, continuous improvement means that I'm going to change, I'm going to evolve, and I'm just going to get better. And the same thing with when it comes to teams, you are only as good as your team, but when you are trying to invest, when you're investing in a company, you're not investing in just the CEO. Of course, the CEO has the vision, he has the dreams, he has the larger picture in mind, but he's not going to get there by himself. He needs people that complement his skill sets. And I'll take an example of the ambassador profile that for the folks that are from the VIP program, you'll have an idea of what it is. You know, when you think about a generator, a conceptualizer, an optimizer, and an implementer, right? As Tim rightly said from the Ambassador Innovation Institute, you want to have people that, number one, understand where they're best at, what part of the profile where they are more comfortable, and note that there are other elements of that process to have an idea and actually make that idea to be executed. There are other elements that those people need to address or appreciate. And the reason why I say this is because when you go into a team, and especially teams that that work very cross-functionally and they work in silos, and you look at the folks that are implementing don't communicate with the folks that are generating the ideas, or maybe the folks that are generating the ideas don't want to have the other people in the room and they just want to be by themselves. Maybe the engineers, the product managers, maybe the marketers, the market research folks, whatever it is. I want to see teams that understand where each individual of the team, where their best set of skills lie, where they lie, and where the others lie equally. It's not about knowing Emmanuel is an optimizer, but I want to know I'm an optimizer, but Michaela is best and most comfortable as an implementer. When I see that those teams understand their strong suits, then that means that they can appreciate different parts of the process a little bit better. But I also want to see teams that take ownership. I don't want it to be like, oh, he didn't do this, so it's not my fault. And a lot of that has to do with the culture of the environment. It has to do with respect. It has to do with continuous improvement. It has to do with appreciation of each individual values and what each other brings to the table. Those are some of the things that I am trying to ingrain in my own environment, because I have seen that without those things, it's hard for teams to work effectively. So if I ever want to invest in any company, if I ever want to go work for any company, if I ever want to advise someone to work for any company, those are some of the things that I will look at.
Yeah, after the lecture we had this morning for the upkeep program, that makes perfect sense. Establishing the different types of problem solvers we are, but also noticing when you can contribute to another area if it has sort of a lacking point. So I really appreciate that answer. We're going to open it up for the Q&A portion now. So if anyone wants to ask Emmanuel any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or add it to the chat section.
Awesome. And while we are waiting for someone to raise their hand, I wanted to also add that when you're looking at implementers and you're looking at optimizers, generators, or any of those different quadrants when it comes to the bachelor problem solving profile, understanding that the fact that I am an implementer, that doesn't mean that I can shift. I can fit into those quadrants. Maybe I am comfortable implementing, but I can be at the table to appreciate what generators do, so that if I have to be, if I have to, because one of the things that people generally lack is not everybody feels like they are part of the process. So when the things just comes to down to you and say implement, because you're not part of the entire process, sometimes you don't take ownership of it, and you're like, it's not my idea, it's whatever. So I'm just gonna do whatever. But being involved and at least having an understanding of the different parts of that process and making sure that you are aware, you don't have to be involved on the day-to-day aspects of the life of an optimizer, but understanding what they do and listening to them when they talk will make you appreciate it. But also when an implementer is in the room with an optimizer, and if that implementer has anything to say, the optimizer shouldn't shut it down too. Because the moment you shut it down, then you're telling them like, hey, close up, just go be where you are. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna give it to you. You're the last step of the process, and that's where you are. So I think it's all about community, and it's about respecting one another, but also knowing where your best strengths lie.
Definitely, it all comes down to just basic communication skills at the forefront and trusting your team. I completely understand that. So I'm going to go to Nutella, if you want to come on and ask your question.
Hi, guys. So I guess the main question of this session would be, if I would to start up a business, which steps do I have to follow?
Okay, you want to start a business. Well, you have to, the first question is, what problem do you want to solve? That's the first thing. You want to start a business. Therefore, I would assume that you've identified a problem in the marketplace, right? So I assume that there is something that you see that someone's not doing a good job at it, and then you want to solve that problem. Maybe you don't have the solution yet, but at least the first thing that should take place is there's a problem to be solved, right?
No. Like what about some like official steps?
Oh, some official steps. Okay, I mean, you know what?
Formal.
Yeah, so things like Google, like things like making your business legal in the United States. If you want to C corp, an S corp, or an LLC, you think about, where do I want my LLC to be located? Do you want it to be? There are different states that have different benefits. You have Delaware, you have Nevada, etc. You have, like, depending on how you're trying to avoid certain tax loopholes, you can choose different states, right? But that is the easy part, because if you just go to a lawyer and say, I want to form an LLC, right? Or it's S corp or C corp, whatever it is, that is something that could be done like this. You just go online, you can do it yourself, and then when you register your business, you get all the paperwork, you get your EIN number, and that's it. You're in business. You go to the bank, you say, this is my EIN number. I want to open a bank account to Natella Corporation Limited, whatever it is, and you have your bank account, and you have your business has a legal status, and then now you have to, okay, how am I going to make money? But the reason why I don't want to stress on that part is because that's easy to do, and that could be done. Anyone can do that, like this, right? You have the money for it. It takes maybe a couple of $100 to register your business, and you have it. You go to a bank, you open your bank account, you have that EIN number, you have your bank account. But now what next, right? I think before I even go there, I want to ensure that my business can make money. You don't want to go spend money and do all those things and then you can make money. If you're going to hire a lawyer, if you're going to go to a bank, you need funds to deposit the funds in the bank, right? You need to have a goal for all those things. So in addition to making your business legal, to me, it's about what comes before making your business legal. How are you actually going to benefit from your business being registered as an LLC? Or what is going to be the purpose of you having a bank account? Is it for you to directly deposit funds from your customers, your clients, which means you have a problem that you're solving in the marketplace? And the rest just flows naturally. As I said, I'm going to reiterate again. The easy part is setting those things up. The hard part is making money from the business idea that you have.
Gotcha. So the innovative part is harder than formal. Okay, because I thought that should be like lots of paperwork involved in it, and like that it's hard to deal with.
No, actually, it's not. If you go, like, there are so many companies out there that are all online, virtual, that they will take care of those paperwork for you. But you don't even need those companies, because you can just go out there. It's not that hard, to be honest with you. It's literally easy. And if you want to, like, open a business in your local community, and you can do something called doing business as, it's called a DBA, where you just go to your local municipal council, and then you go register your business as a DBA, doing business as, to if you want to start selling things, whatever it is, if you want to open, you have, I don't know, whatever it is, there's that option for you. But the tax incentives are not as complex and as enticing as the LLCs, etc. And the one thing about the LLC is it protects you it separates you and the company. So if the company does something, and if the company goes bankrupt, you don't get affected as an entity. So it separates both. That's why people like the LLC when they're starting out a little bit better.
That's risky. Okay, makes sense. Thank you very much for an amazing idea.
Thank you, Natella. and by the way, Natella is in Japan.
It's what do I call it? Almost 10 a.m. in here, working from 11 p.m. Still surviving.
Thanks for showing up, my friend.
Thank you. So don't mind my tired, exhausted face.
Love it.
All right, thank you, Natella. So we're gonna have Patricia come up next.
I have a quick question about entrepreneurship and like their lifestyle. So I noticed that for the entrepreneurship life, the people who make the most impact are those who continue to work on their goals throughout the ups and downs and all of their successes and failures, no matter what. So I was wondering what people can do to increase the sense of resilience in their professional and personal lives, and how they can kind of better themselves through this resilience.
Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know, you didn't listen to Fireside Chat episode 1. Patricia is our director of operations. So thank you for always showing up and for being awesome. So, when it comes to resilience, I think that it's about understanding your goals as an individual, understanding your whys, and understanding that for you to get to the end, there is a process. And that process is never going to be easy. It's never going to be a smooth sail. And identifying that and appreciating that the process is going to be hard, you become a little bit better prepared for it. What most people think is because the word entrepreneurship is sexy, you just want to dive into it, or because being an investment banker sounds sexy, you just want to go be an investment banker because the word I'm an engineer sounds kind of like have a highest class social class status. You want to go into it, right? You need to go into what you want to do for the right reason. And when you go and do things for the right reasons, you become invested in it. And the process of you being invested in it would help you overcome so many challenges. And you're going to stay true to the process, regardless of the tornadoes that come your way. You're going to be like a rock that is anchored deep in the ground. And you're going to ride it, and you're going to stay steadfast and going to figure it out with the people around you. To me, that's resilience. But the only way you're going to develop that resilience is because you're going to appreciate and you're going to love the process. You're going to love the grind. You're going to love the grind of waking up every day at 4 a.m. in the morning, going to run for an hour, to break your sleep, and to start working at 7 a.m. and to not stop working until 10, 11 p.m. at night. Not a lot of people can do that. But if you don't love that process, if you don't have a why, then you're going to crash and you're going to give up. You need to understand what the life of a consultant is. And you need to understand that you like solving people's problems, and you need to understand that that's what you should love. That's why you're going to travel from Monday to Thursday and not see your family and come back on Thursday night and go to the office on Monday, and then on Friday, and then the next Monday you're back on the road, or Sunday you're back on the road. You're going to love that process. You have a goal, and you know this is just part of that process. And as you're going along that journey, there are things that you're going to take away from it that's going to help you achieve things that's going to make you be better positioned in life. But I think it's all a combination of your why, understanding the process, and knowing that nothing comes easy. And I think for most of the folks that are going to be watching this, don't think that because you see someone successful today, that means that person didn't go through crap, didn't go through shit. No, they went through shit. A lot of sleepless nights. But the only way you're going to stay true to it and get that resilience is to be true to yourself. And for me, I love the process. Whenever I want to do something, I enjoy the grind. Right now, managing the VIP program, we started with over 1,000 students. We put together this program in freaking 6 weeks. Never knew where we were going to start. Amir had an idea, came to me with the idea. How can we get this done? It's been 3 months of grind. But this is Emmanuel after going through a long day of making stuff happen, and I'm here talking to beautiful people, beautiful minds. I'm not going to do this and look happy. I hope I look happy, because I am happy. If I didn't love the process, I wouldn't be showing up to answer questions during Zoom office hours if I didn't love the process. So that is just an example of what love in the process means. I have a why. My why is true because I love service. I want to give. There are a lot of students that need access to opportunities. But the process to give those students that access is not easy. And because I love and enjoy the process, I stay true to the course.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I just have one more question to build off of that. So how do you help others build resilience if you're a leader and you want your team to be more resilient?
Bringing them into making sure that they are part of the vision. Making sure that they are part of the process. It's not like, hey, Emmanuel, I want to build a computer. I want to solve this problem. This is the solution. Go execute it. Oh, and by the way, don't bring any opinion back to me. My way or the highway. Go get it done. Okay. I'll just go do it. I'll not even put in the bare minimum effort. So it's about making, and Stevie Covey said this pretty nicely. He said, a good leader is someone who doesn't only has a vision, but makes others to be inspired enough to see the vision in themselves. So how can I make people to be part of the vision and for them to feel like they are part of the process. They are co-creators. And by making them feel like they are part of the vision, but not only making them feel, but actually act on it to make sure their opinion counts. Because the one thing is, if you feel like this is your idea, you become invested in it. And if you become invested in it, you love the process, you love the grind. And if you love the grind, you're going to have something more than just getting it done to weather the storm, because it's going to be a storm. And that's all resilience to me. If that makes sense to you, Patricia.
Absolutely. So resilience is basically about following your own vision, your own goal, and knowing what you're working on, knowing your why, and then as a leader, helping others know their why and knowing why they want to work on this team with you.
Yeah, and help them when they're down. Provide an environment that supports that encourages continuous improvement, that encourages growth, that encourages collaboration, that encourages teamwork, that fosters, positivity, that fosters, I don't want to go to work. If I go to work and I'm not happy going to work, if I go to work and I don't love the people that I work with, if I go to work and I can't wait for 5 p.m. to leave, then that's not the right place for me to be at, right? So leaders need to understand that and need to create an environment where people feel like they can take ownership. They can be part of the process. They're not just a cog in the wheel, but their voices can be heard and will be heard, and they will be respected. Not always going to, that doesn't mean that when everything you say, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make sure I listen to you. And I'm going to make sure that you feel like you're part of the process and you are an important part of the company.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you for all you do. Really appreciate you.
Of course.
Yes, big thank you to Patricia always. So we're going to bring in next Michaela Foreman.
And everyone, by the way, if you don't know about Michaela Foreman, she's the granddaughter of George Foreman.
I wish. Hey everyone. So thank you, Emmanuel, for this conversation. I really enjoyed the entrepreneurship track this week. So my question basically is just about innovation in entrepreneurship, and kind of people believe and say that being an entrepreneur means that you're just building on a pre-existing idea. So I'm just wondering what you believe about that, because I think that to be an entrepreneur, at some point you're able to create an entirely new thing. So I'm just wondering what your opinion is on that.
Oh, I see what you say. Okay, so I mean, there are so many ways to be innovative, right? I can have an iPhone, and the iPhone is not solving one particular problem. I'm going to improve the iPhone to solve that problem. I want to communicate with people in Africa, but maybe there is an entirely new way to communicate with them that's probably not through this device. So my answer to that is, I really do not give two craps about how you go about innovating, if it's a completely new idea or if you're just making, because you can do process innovation, which means you're going to make something more efficient. You can do innovation within a company. You can be an entrepreneur, right? There are so many ways to look at it. And at the end of the day, it's about what problem are you trying to solve? And this is where I'm really going to go down to. What problem are you trying to solve? Are there existing solutions in the marketplace? What are those solutions not addressing? And how can you address that solution? You could be looking at what's already, because sometimes you don't want to go recreate something if you don't need to. But you can use that time to make things much better and more efficient. And that's okay too. The reason why I think you're asking this question is because most people say that it's hard to develop a completely new idea. And that's true. That's 100% true. It's gonna be so hard to think about a problem that doesn't have some sort of solution in the marketplace. It's gonna be hard. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, I'm just saying it's gonna be hard. And maybe that solution doesn't really address the total addressable market. Maybe the solution is not scalable. Maybe you can fine-tune innovation to help make that solution scalable. So depending on what that is to you, if you want to bring something, if you want, it's like it's completely, and by the way, if you have something that is completely new and there is nothing like it in the market, please let me know. I don't have money, but I'm going to borrow money to invest in that. But I am still going to invest in you too. If you tell me, hey, Emmanuel, this is an idea and there's a very big addressable market and there's a very pertinent problem, and I think that this solution is going to fix and solve and make people's lives better, I will also, I'll invest in that too, even if it means that there are solutions, because for 90% of the ideas, it's going to be innovating and improving on something that's already existing.
So kind of off of that a little bit, do you think as technology continues to improve and continues to kind of do things that are unheard of now, that at one point we'll get to a point where new ideas and concepts just aren't achievable anymore, like a completely new concept?
I don't believe that. But it's going to be much harder. It's going to be much harder because we are still exploring the world, we're exploring the universe, right? And this is just based on our perspective on Earth. What about when we're going to Mars? What about when we are doing interstellar space? What about when we are doing with, high pressure zones, or what was this called? Like the damn it, the word is coming out of my mouth. Oceans, right? What about when we're trying to explore deep sea ocean, deep sea marine life? We haven't explored. There's so many things that we haven't explored yet, and as we keep exploring those things, we're going to find out that there's things that are going to be completely new, but it's going to not mean that it's going to be easy, right? So I think that we're never going to run out of opportunities to bring in something. The moment we run out of that, then our civilization is like, but it's going to mean we need new set of skills to address those problems. And maybe those skills are not existing currently in the marketplace today.
And last question, and I promise everyone. So a lot of investors also have the mindset that they should kind of invest in things that are kind of already heard of, known, things like that, just because it's like safer. Do you think then that investors also need a new mindset when going into hearing people's pitches and just their ideas in general, so they can be on that brink of I don't know, innovation and that completely new idea?
Oh, I'll be surprised if there is any investor out there, if you're an investor out there and you only want to invest in TikTok, in Snapchat, it's questionable. The reason why I say that is because I've met with so many investors, and a lot of them have invested in companies I've never heard of. And they know this. That's why you have angel investors, you have seed investors, you have, Series A and above investors. So you have a lot of investors out there that are trying to look for the next best thing. And there are a lot of them out there. So I'll say if you have an idea, don't think that because you don't have any no-name brand, you're not going to get investment. As long as you understand what solution, what problem you're solving, you have your strategy in place, you have something to showcase, you have something valuable that someone can see benefit and value from, you have a good value proposition, it's something that is going to solve an actual pain point, then I strongly believe that there are people out there that would invest in your business. It might not be easy to have access to those people. That's why access is it's an issue. But I would say the best ventures invested in things. When did you know about Zoom?
I feel like I didn't really know about it until we really needed it.
Exactly. So Zoom was not popular in your world, but before COVID, Zoom was $1 billion company, more something like that. It was pretty huge. It was a unicorn before COVID, way before COVID, right? And it did not become that because people didn't invest in it. TikTok. Before TikTok became TikTok, it had been existing in other markets, but called something different, right? So popularity is very relative. If 2 people know it, that means 2 people know it. If 100 people know it, 1,000 people know it, 10,000, so it's relative, right? So I'll say the best investors don't just look at, because the moment the moment it's well known, it becomes very expensive to invest in it. But when you go down, you have a bargain. That's why early investors always make the big bucks if they invest substantial amount of money in a successful company.
Well, thank you so much. I definitely always love hearing your perspective on things, and appreciate this conversation today.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Am I not being cool? No, Michaela?
Never.
Never cool. Never.
No.
No.
Anyway, thank you, Michaela, for asking that question. Do we have any more questions at all? All right, if we have no more questions left, we're going to just end with some final thoughts. Do you have anything else to say, Emmanuel? Any advice?
Well, whenever I interview people, I always tell them, like, what do you want to close with? And I never like when people ask me that. Not to say I have a problem with it. It's just because if I feel like there's a pressure for me to just go in my magic box and remove that one best piece of advice, you know. The one thing that I'm going to close on with entrepreneurship is to be an entrepreneur. It's about knowing your why. It's about understanding your values, understanding the thing that you bring into someone's life based on the solution that you provide to them. How do you make people feel by solving their problems? And it doesn't have to be, guys, and anyone listening to me here, it doesn't have to be the next big thing. It doesn't have to be the next billion-dollar unicorn. It could literally be by trying to solve something within your community. It could be by just trying to solve something within your classroom, within your friends. And the moment we start there, we realize that the world is our oyster. We can solve problems, and you grow your confidence, because sometimes we bite too much that we can chew right off the bat. It's a process. And in that process, you need people that you can learn from. Finding mentors, finding people that have done these things. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And ensuring that by trying to solve that problem, that doesn't mean that the process is going to be easy. And loving the grind and loving the hustle, the hardship that comes with it, the late nights, the weekends without you being with your girlfriend, the weekend without you going to the bar with your friends, the weekend where you're not going to go and get, if you're at college student, when I was in college, there was $1 beer bar by my university. The weekends, the Thursday nights that you're going to miss to get this $1 beer because you have to stay back and work, is part of the process. And if you do not love the process, if you do not love the grind, then it's going to be much more difficult. And if you fail, it's okay to fail. Just start little, start small, and know your why. And that's my 2 cents.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, and thank you to everyone today who came in and asked a question. We always appreciate people listening in. So this concludes our fireside chat for this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.